visions of the future that have already passed into history. Some are a touch mind-boggling, what were they thinking, but some are simply awesome. The Berlin Aerodynamica Technica Alphas, or bad cars for short, were designed by Bertoni's Franco Scaglione. The Florentines' interest in streamlining resulted in a trio of design studies, which kicked off with the Alpha 1900-based BAT 5 in 1953. It was followed by the BAT 7 a year later and BAT 9 in '55. This was heady stuff for the period, with the first BAT Alpha boasting a drag coefficient of just 0.23 CD. All three Alphas were road legal and tested extensively, and, while too radical to enter production, they inspired the gorgeous Scaglione Pen Giulietta Sprint Speciale, which did. In the late 1970s, Pininfarina was contracted by Jaguar to facelift the XJ612. This car, however, wasn't built at Jaguar's behest, but Pininfarina took a flyer anyway in the hope that it would be adopted for production. Jaguar went so far as to donate an XJS development hack, which was shipped over to Turin, where it was comprehensively filleted until all that remained was the bare floor pan. Under the direction of Lorenzo Ramesciotti, the new body was formed from metal and aluminium. Unveiled at the 1978 British Motor Show in Birmingham, the XJ Spider captivated. Nevertheless, it remained unique, tragically. Technically speaking, this was a coach-built one-off rather than a concept queen per se, but the FZ93 was also a show car. Built by Zagato at the behest of Roberto Tonelli, it was styled by Ercole Spada and looked nothing like its Testarossa donor car. Up front, the FZ93's pointy snout and air intakes mimicked the contemporary nose cone and wing outline first trumpeted on the Tirolo 19 F1 car. Launched at the '93 Geneva Motor Show, it was met with hostility by just about everyone. Fast forward 20 years, and its styling cues have since been cribbed by just about everyone. Concept cars, by definition, are meant to forecast future design trends. That was undeniably the intention of this aerodynamic styling studio. The Ford Sierra was already signed off, Vishu Bonson, Patrick Luckman co-production featuring extensively in Ford's advertising after it was unveiled at the September 1981 Frankfurt Motor Show. Boasting a drag coefficient of just 0.22 CD, and painted in a rather nasty shade of gold, it wowed hunters and the media alike. In many ways, the Testudo was among the most important concept cars to emerge during the 60s. Based upon a shortened Chevrolet Corvair platform, it marked the emergence of Giorgetto Giugiaro as a trendsetter. The name, a literal translation meaning turtle, was chosen to symbolize the design theme. A sharp crease ran down each flank, dividing the body, while the bubble roof canopy hinged forward for access to the cabin. Work on this brave new world began in January 1963 and it was completed in time for March's Geneva Motor Show. One to be filed under if only. Styled by Maury Callum, whose brother Ian would reinvent Aston Martin's design language with the DB7, this would-be super saloon broke cover at the 1993 Geneva Motor Show. Parent company Ford was keen to boost Aston Martin, and considered its sister brand Legenda a good fit for expanding its reach as it looked to increase production. A 5.9-liter V12 was mooted should the Vignale have entered production. However, the project was axed after just 2 show cars had been completed. A third example was later made at vast expense for the Sultan of Brunei. GM's Harley Earl is often cited as being the founding father of car design. for no other reason than he established the first proper styling department. However, Earl and his group of starry-eyed futurists went for broke with this wild flight of fantasy, which broke cover at the 1953 Detroit Motorama. Inspired by jet fighter aircraft of the day, and powered by a Whirlfire turbo-powered GT gas turbine, it was tested at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway by multiple Indy 500 winner Maury Rouse. In true aircraft style, its ailerons were fully functional and could be used as an air brake. This flight of fantasy was essentially a road-going manifestation of an Indy 500 racer if you believed the PR blurb. It prompted jaws to slacken in unison when unveiled at the 1996 Detroit Auto Show, and with good reason. Basis for the car was a specially designed central monocoque formed of lightweight carbon fiber and aluminum honeycomb composites. It was a hugely labor-intensive, one-piece structure manufactured by racing car constructor Reynard Motorsport. Power came courtesy of a quad-cam, 6-liter V12 mounted amidships. This unit was essentially two Duratec V6s, as used in the Ford Taurus and Mercury Sable, mated together. The central conceit for the 1978 show car was to promote new ideas, primarily the integration of a car's glasshouse with a regular steel body. Essentially, there would, in Bertoni speak, be a single sculpture with no dividing lines. Basis for this oddity was a Lancia Stratos, stretched by 3.9 inches, the body being entirely hand-formed from the steel. Bertoni almost came unstuck after longtime collaborator and glazing firm Glaverbel failed to come through. Instead, it was forced to use tinted plastic panels which were then glued into shallow grooves in the shell. The joints were then filled flush with elasticated sealant. The brainchild of Father Alfred A. Giuliano, construction of this monstrosity was sponsored by his congregation in Branford, Connecticut. Some 18 feet long, and bodied in glass fiber, the car took 3 years to build. It featured all manner of safety features, not least a roll cage, padded dashboard, side impact bars and a deformable steering column. Other novelties included a plastic Astrodome roof, and air jacks. There were, however, one or two issues. Not least, the prototype was based on a tired 1953 Buick of indeterminate origin. It broke down 15 times on the journey to its big reveal in 1957.